Back in 2003, actor John Ritter died from a misdiagnosed acute aortic dissection. After losing her husband, Ritter's wife, Amy Yasbeck, started the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health.
And now the foundation has a new focus on health equity and aortic dissection's disproportionate impact on Black Americans. Holly Menino spoke with Yasbeck and Tonka Williams, an acute and critical care nurse.
Amy, I want to start with you. For those that may not know, can you explain what happened to John and then why the John Ritter Foundation was established?
So in 2003, John was working on Eight Simple Rules, his TV show, and he started experiencing very sharp chest pains and nausea. He was taken to an emergency room, and they started treatment for protocol for a heart attack. Well, he wasn't having a heart attack. He was having an aortic dissection, and everything you do for a heart attack is something you absolutely don't want to do for aortic dissection. So they missed the step where they looked and see if it could be something else, which would have been a CT scan. That's the gold standard. They didn't do that. They treated him for a heart attack, and he passed away. So an aortic dissection is a tear in your aorta, which is the largest artery in your body, very important. And blood gets in between the layers, and that's when it is diverted from where else it needs to go. And that's what is the, as they say, mechanism of death. I mean, that is the reason why. It's almost mechanical reason. And the problem was, I had never heard of it. I started looking, found out that it's possibly genetic. It actually is in our family. And so I started the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health because I was looking at all different textbooks and things. I wanted one place where people could come and learn about it and understand how they can protect themselves and their families. And through the years, through the stories, because I hear real people and their stories, and I go to conferences, and I started really understanding very deeply from stories from people who have become my friends, who've lost their spouses and children, and they are Black Americans who are not getting the same level of health care as everybody else, which freaking happens. And I'm like, we need to shine a light on this. And then I found this wonderful woman. I spoke at a thing. I mentioned health equity, and we just went. And so this year we decided to make that the focus of this year's Aortic Dissection Awareness Week. I can't speak to medical things. I'm not a doctor. Don't even think I've played one on TV. I'll have to look at that. I'll have to look at IMDb. But Tonka knows it.
Yeah, Tonka, expand a little bit more on aortic dissection. I feel like Amy did a really good job at describing what it is, but tell me a little bit more how this impacts the Black community in different ways.
Yeah.
So 55% of Black Americans have hypertension, better known as high blood pressure. And this is a significant risk factor for aortic dissection.
Yeah.
And with that being said, it does disproportionately impact the Black community. Unfortunately, research have shown that Blacks or African Americans are suffering almost a decade earlier with aortic dissection. And then passing away at a younger age compared to other ethnic and racial groups.
Unreal.
It is unreal.
I know.
It is
but
really unreal.
There's ways to protect yourself.
It is. So if you have hypertension, get it under control. Share your family medical history. That is going to be key when you're talking to your healthcare providers. And then 3, if you or your loved one has had an aortic dissection or know someone in your family who has died unexpectedly and it potentially was cardiovascular related, talk to your healthcare provider to see does it make sense for you to have imaging to rule out conditions such as aortic dissection.
Yeah.
Tonka, can you explain what the difference is between aortic dissection and an aortic aneurysm?
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
Just because what we found out was that John had an aneurysm, which is the ballooning of part of your aorta. And that's something that can grow for years or go fast. And it has no symptoms. That's why it's so scary. The dissection part has symptoms. John's brother in 2007, so 4 years, I'm doing math, 4 years after John passed away, was found to have an aneurysm in the exact same place. So his aortic arch was replaced. His life was saved because he knew how serious that was. And they think probably their dad passed away from it too, even though it was reported he had a heart attack. He didn't have an autopsy, and that's why people sometimes have trouble finding their family history because it's reported as the wrong thing.
Good for them for sharing his story, and as difficult as that has probably been for her losing her husband, it's an important message to get across to a lot of folks.
Absolutely, and raising awareness on the community that's disproportionately affected too.
Exactly.